Don't quit your day job.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Let's Talk Football. My name is John Halpin alongside Chris Palmer. Chris Palmer, don't quit your day job.
I can't quit my day job, but how you doing, my boy?
I'm good, my brother. You know what week it is?
It's Super Bowl.
It's
Oh my
Super
God,
Bowl
it's
week,
Super
man.
Bowl week.
The time has finally come, and the matchup is set. Congratulations to the Kansas City Chiefs and the 49ers for making it to the Super Bowl. It's a rematch from 4 years ago, and surprisingly, you and we called it too. That's the funny part.
Yeah, Halpin, I got a question for you.
Yes.
Doesn't it suck when we're right?
More than you know, mate. more than you know. But so before we start talking about the Super Bowl, let's start talking about the championship weekend, because there was a lot to talk about during championship weekend, and we probably could have ran that episode for like 3 hours, right? But we kind of stopped ourselves, right? So let's start with the first game, the AFC title game between the Chiefs and the Ravens, and the Kansas City Chiefs coming away with the win, 17-10. It was all Chiefs all day. But Chris Palmer, before I get into it, let me get your thoughts on this game.
There's a lot to unpack here when it comes to what happened during that. From top to bottom, when it comes to the Ravens, everything about them screamed unprepared. Everything about their performance. I watched that game, every snap of that game. I was locked into the TV for both games. The Ravens did not seem like they were ready to play the Chiefs. I don't know who they prepared for, but it was not Andy Reid in the AFC Championship. Simply enough. Something had them caught mentally that they couldn't break. Something had them caught emotionally that they couldn't get past. Just too many penalties. And just the big thing that really just bothers me to my core is the total disregard for what worked all year for you guys. Your run game was what got you to the playoffs and through the playoffs. It was literally not there for the game. I think there was an 87% pass to run ratio where you passed 87% of the game or something
82.
Close to that. 82. Mm-hmm. You're in 6 times all game. That is abysmal for the most rushing attempts in the regular season to go into under 10.
Well, to our running backs under 10. We gave it to our running backs only 6 times that game.
Right. No, I'm just, again, it's your run game was what got you there.
Mm-hmm.
It's 6 running attempts with your running backs all game.
Yes.
Just unacceptable. Mm-hmm. Totally unacceptable. Good.
Oh, I thought you were going to keep going.
No, good.
Because, I mean, there's a lot to say with this game.
There's a lot to unpack.
I don't disagree with anything you said. Believe me. The Ravens were completely unprepared. I have, as much as I love my Ravens, they're not above criticism. And I don't think that any player or coach or team is above criticism in the NFL. And the Ravens are deservedly so, because right now is the time to be critical of the Ravens. We could have done it last week, but, we waited for this week. So I'll start. The word is unacceptable. Absolutely unacceptable. First off, there's a big chunk of blame pie, and then you could slice it up any which way, and you could dole it out to anyone who you want. I want to give a big slice of blame pie right to Lamar. You played like shit the whole fucking game. The whole fucking game. Like, you just could not hit. You were inaccurate, and your decision making is really what cost you too. And it was a horrible game plan by Todd Monken and John Harbaugh. I don't know who came up with that game plan to pass more than run 82% of the time that game, but it was a fucking horrible plan. If Todd Monken, you made that plan, that was horrible. But John Harbaugh, you're also responsible too, because you signed
checked
off
on it.
Exactly. Right. So that was absolutely fucking horrible. All of them. And like you said before, we lost the game before we even stepped on the field. We were absolutely in our heads, played completely emotional, and just it got to us because we were not the most disciplined team. The Chiefs were the most disciplined team. They only scored 17 points because they only needed 17 points because we beat ourselves so bad that the Chiefs won the game before the coin flip was even tossed. Lamar,
And you
I'm
saw it.
sorry.
Go ahead.
No, go.
Go ahead.
No,
You
I have
saw
plenty.
it. You saw it a couple of big times even before the coin toss. You saw it when a video went around of Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce.
Mm-hmm.
They were messing with Justin Tucker during his warm-ups. Threw the ball, through his tee, through his helmet. Like, they walked into your house as if they owned the place.
Mm-hmm.
And it started with your Hall of Famer kicker.
Yep.
So they walked in there with such an alpha dog complex saying, this is our house. Whoever that guy is, it doesn't matter who he is. Hall of Fame or not, this is our house.
Mm-hmm.
You're in our way.
Yep.
Then there was another altercation where fists were thrown before the coin toss again between the Ravens and the Chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
That was before the coin toss even happened. I'm not even talking about the Zay Flowers taunting penalty that really started the whole penalty brigade on your guys' part. But that's where, I mean, they really got caught before the game even started. They were in their heads emotionally and mentally before Kansas City's plane even landed. From what it seems.
Oh yeah, and I completely agree with you 100%. And they're like I will say Zay Flowers, that didn't start the taunting because that didn't start the penalties because we were already getting penalties prior to that. But I will say too, every penalty we got,
It was well deserved.
It was well deserved.
Good calls.
It was there was no penalty on the Ravens that I thought, oh come on, that's a bullshit call. Yes, could there have been some calls on the Chiefs? Yeah, but I don't think that would have affected the game. Every penalty by the Ravens, we deserved every bit of it. There was just like the punch to Patrick Mahomes' face mask. It was Kyle Van Noy shoving Travis Kelce. It was ugly. It was an absolutely ugly game. I will say this: the silver lining was, the defense showed up, held the Chiefs scoreless in the second half.
3.5 quarters they played. Yeah. They always play for 3.5 quarters.
Oh yeah, the first two drives were killer by the Chiefs offense, but that was all they needed too. When our defense stepped up, our offense was still asleep, and it was absolutely just an abysmal game, a miserable game to watch, at least for myself as a Ravens fan, because it's like you want to watch good football, right? And that was the epitome of bad football all around, from coaching to players to just like how you play the game. It was all around bad football.
You see, and this was what I tried to stress when we were talking going into this game.
Mm-hmm.
When you guys beat Houston, you started off slow. But because of who you guys were and who the Houston Texans were when it comes to them being so young, that inexperience gap was really what allowed you to take that game over when you won against Houston. You didn't have that going into Kansas City. And I said that was going to be the issue, the hump that you guys would have to get over, is that you can't grab hold of a bunch of young guys going up against Kansas City. It's the gatekeeper of the AFC.
Yeah.
You got to come in hot and heavy, and everyone knows it's not necessarily set in stone, but they have a very high probability of scoring on their opening drive. Yeah. So if you don't answer or you don't score before giving them the ball, you're already going to start yourself at a deficit.
Yeah. And it was completely getting away from our identity as a team. Again, passing 82% of the time, that is not what we do.
It's totally uncalled for.
It was just the whole game was just absolutely unacceptable. And again, as much as I love my Ravens, I'm not afraid to be critical of them. And this is the absolute right time to be critical of them because they played like shit. They played like absolute shit, and there's no sugarcoating that.
Right, but when you look on the other side of that game, you kind of see the difference again, this is not taking anything away from the Ravens. Yes, they played like dog shit in the AFC Championship, but I'm not taking away how good of a team they are. This is what separates a very good playoff team from a Super Bowl team. And you saw it clear as day, the separation between the two.
Oh, yeah.
The Chiefs are Super Bowl primed. Everyone really thought that the Ravens were Super Bowl primed, and it just seemed they are not. But they are still a very reputable, very good playoff team with a lot of potential. So,
Yeah.
as bad as that game was, I would almost have to say take it with a grain of salt moving forward because of just how primed for the Super Bowl the Chiefs are. We said all year about how much the Chiefs were struggling. Come the last week of the season, that all changed. Everything changed, and they became what they are, and that is the gatekeeper of the AFC, and they made it to yet another Super Bowl.
Yep.
It's just who they are. They are the holder of the AFC. They are the holder of the Super Bowl. They're going for a back-to-back. That is the true separation between a Super Bowl team and a very good playoff team.
Yep. And very good playoffs teams, they don't win Super Bowls.
They don't win Super Bowls.
Exactly. So, and that's why Lamar and company, we're going to be watching it on this at home. So,
but shout out to Lamar for getting his second MVP.
I think that's official on Saturday, the night prior. But
I thought they already announced that.
No, because they do the awards ceremony the day before the Super Bowl, which is that Saturday.
Okay.
I mean,
it's going to go to him, though.
More than likely than not, Lamar will win the MVP, and deservedly so. I mean, he did have a great regular season, and it was a very great season for the Ravens. It was just disappointing how it ended, to just fall flat on your face. And
very
for me,
bitter loss.
And for me, as I keep saying to all my friends and family, it's like I am heartbroken, but my heart keeps beating. So,
yeah.
So, with that, that is the AFC title game. We also had another title game that Sunday, and that was the NFC title game. That was the more exhilarating game between the two, between the 49ers and the Lions. The Lions fell a little short there, but it was a very entertaining game. Brock Purdy stepped up when it really counted and when it really mattered. And the 49ers, much like the Chiefs, deserve to be in the Super Bowl and have a chance to hoist that Lombardi trophy.
Yeah. NFC Championship was the better of the two games by a long shot. But for this game, everyone watched it. It was a tale of two halves when it comes to the Lions as a whole. But it was really true to form as to who they were all season. They got into a very bad habit of gassing themselves in the first half. If they got to 30 in the first half, their defense would lock down and they would win games. But if they were held to under 30 in a half of football, they were in for a rough second half. And that was more or less all year. And then they were also aggressive to a fault all year, going forward on fourth down, having the most fourth down attempts and completion rating, the whole nine. And the part where it's to a fault is where it came back to beat them in Dallas. Call or no call, it's what came back to beat them. And it's what came back to beat them this time around. I don't fault Dan Campbell for making that decision. And I don't fault him for saying what he said on the post-game conference, that this may be their only chance. I don't fault him for being realist about it. One bit. If he said anything else, made any type of false claim, false promise, he would have been murdered by analysts for going back on the way he walked into Detroit. I respect him for staying true to who he is at the end of a very bad loss at the end of the game. And I really see a lot of promise in Detroit coming out of this. Will this be their only time in the NFC Championship? I don't think so. But with the rising talent in the NFC, and is coming very, very quick, it very well might be, and that's a shame because of just how good that team is going to be for a very long time. But now you look over on the 49ers side, and they're more or less, they are the same team as the Lions, just in the future, if that makes sense. Now let me explain. You look at the Lions, they're a bunch of talented young guys with an extremely talented veteran quarterback. You look at the 49ers offense, it's a bunch of veterans with a young, hot quarterback. The Lions and the Niners are in the same position, just a few years ahead of, the Niners are a few years ahead of them. And that's more or less what happened. It's the overall experience and chemistry of a veteran team versus getting a bunch of young, hot, and ready young guys ready to play.
Mm-hmm.
They need a couple more years of growing together. They've had 3 great years of growth together. You have to take this year off, and you have to start maturing yourselves to the core. You want to be aggressive? Fine. You want to go for it on 4th and makeable? Fine. You don't have to do it just about every 4th down when you're in an obvious points situation. Again, I don't fault him for not going for those field goals. Does that mean they would have won the game if he went and made them? Not necessarily. But if he missed them, if those field goals were missed, again, Dan Campbell would be on the block being absolutely crucified for going against his own message. So no, I don't fault him for not going for those field goals.
It's crazy too, just to think of like how the Lions have been all season. And again, the key word is aggressive. They have just been aggressive from the get-go. They are very young. They have the energy. And Dan Campbell is, every team becomes who their head coach is. What their head coach's ideology and philosophy towards the game of football is reflected upon how the players play the game of football. Where, for instance, like you said, Dan Campbell, he's a very aggressive coach. And he made some very aggressive calls where it's like to go for it on 4th down in San Francisco territory. I think it's exactly who he is as a person. He's a very, you're going to get all of him. It's like we're not going to play afraid. And they did not play afraid. But there's being aggressive, and I think also being smart. And I don't think that it was the smart decision to go for it on 4th down. I don't fault him for doing it. But in both instances, those 2 instances where he could have kicked those field goals to have given himself the chance to, because he was up 24-7, and he elected to go for it on 4th down. They didn't get the 4th down, and then San Francisco came back, and then they started scoring. They got the momentum from that, right? You could have easily had a 20-point lead from that if, obviously, you make the field goal, right? But that was a very makeable field goal. That was like a 40-yarder. That's a very makeable field goal. The percentage of getting that is very high. And then, obviously, San Fran's starting to score. They're starting to come back, and Brock Purdy's getting that momentum. He's getting that momentum with all his weapons and everything. And before you know it, they're up. It's 27-24 49ers. And it's like, oh, wait, didn't we have the lead before?
Right, like what just happened? That third quarter was a nightmare for the Lions.
It was an absolute nightmare. And they had the chance to tie it at like when it was 27-24. You're in San Francisco territory, marching on the red zone. It would have been less than a 40-yard field goal, and that's a high percentage kick right there. And you have a pretty solid kicker too. He's pretty good. I'm blanking on his name right now, but he was pretty good throughout the whole year. And you didn't tie it, and you lost by 3. And obviously, it's easy to say now in hindsight, yes, you should have done it. But for me, when I look at the game of football, I always be like, if you have the opportunity to take the points, take the points, because you never know how the game's going to end. And I feel like I don't much like you, I don't fault him for doing it. I just don't think it was the smart decision to be at that aggressive at that time. But the Lions are Dan Campbell, and I hope that this is just I hope this is the first of many NFC title games. But like you said, the NFC, there's a lot of young talent rising, especially within his own with his own division. Jordan Love has emerged. Uh,
Jordan Love is here.
Jordan Love is here,
And
and
don't sleep on Justin Fields. I'm telling you, don't sleep on that Bears team.
I mean, we got to see the offseason, man. What they do with the draft picks and everything. If they keep Matt Eberflus and everything, there's a lot. There's a lot of
There's a
big
lot to
mysteries
unpack there too.
Yeah, so believe me, we're gonna get into all of that, like when the offseason demands of it. But for now, it's like there's. I don't blame Dan Campbell because it's like this is the golden opportunity to do it right. But I would have just liked to have seen him play it a little smarter, not as aggressive.
I agree with you 100%, and that's where I say I hope this is a maturing offseason for them. You know, they have, I said it a couple of times, that going into this offseason, they have a lot of potential for a lot of promise. You know, just like Green Bay, just like Houston, they are in the same boat. They are very young. They don't have to pay many people right now. They can dip into free agency and get the right people that they need for the holes they need. But they'll ultimately find the same fate if they don't control the aggression. I understand they found their culture is aggressive. Fine. Control it. When
Yeah,
it's like, it's fine. You can't have it unreserved. It can't be unchecked. Because that's how it winds up hurting you in the end. You need to have it reserved and have it in your pocket and make other teams fear it versus expect it.
yeah, and just to build off that too, where it's like when do you go for it on fourth down, right? It's not an easy question to answer, right? Because it's all based on the context of the game. It's all
Right.
based on like the time, field position, and everything. When do you go for it on fourth down? But I'll simplify the answer. When you have to have it.
Right.
When you have to have it, that's when you go for it.
Right.
And both times when they went for it on those fourth downs, they didn't have to have it. That's the
That's
thing. It's like
fair.
you could have just taken what was given to you. Much like because I remember watching last week when I was watching Undisputed at one point, Michael Irvin said that about Zay Flowers when he fumbled in the like on the 1 yard line. It's like as a wide receiver, when do you reach for the goal line? When you have to have it. As a coach, when do you go for it on fourth down?
When
When
you
you
have to
have
do
to
it.
have exactly.
Well, yes. And again, that's where I hope for both Zay Flowers and for Dan Campbell, that's where the maturing of the offseason comes in. You know,
Exactly.
you come in, you have another year under your belt. You did another year of film. You did another year of, whatever personal growth you need to do to, again, just form that.
Mm-hmm.
It's on the Lions' perspective, it's okay. It's good to know you have good 4-down football. There's not a lot of teams that can do that effectively, is play 4-down football. There's a couple of things that separate teams from one another. It's teams that can throw hard counts. It's teams that can have a good 2-minute drill. It's teams that have good 4-down play, and it's teams that are good in the red zone. If you can do any combination of those four effectively, you're going to separate yourselves. But all of them need to be controlled. If you're over aggressive in the red zone, you won't do well. If you get anxious in the red zone, you won't do well. If your 2-minute game is off, you can't really mount end of game comebacks. If your 4-down territory isn't good, clutch time is a problem for you. That's where it's if you are over aggressive in any of those subjects, that's where flaws really show. So when it comes to the 4-down marker, if you are over aggressive you gas your team. And that's the habit the Lions have to break. They have to figure out how to play a 60-minute football game with forward down football in their reservoir, in their resume. Simply enough.
Yeah. I hope for both the Ravens and the Lions. Yes, it's not the ending didn't end as either team wanted to, but there's still a lot to be proud of for both teams throughout the whole season.
100%.
And much like a lot of other teams this season, if you did not make it to the Super Bowl, but yet you could still look back on the season and pull more positives than good, then it was a good season. And out of the 32 teams in the NFL, there can only be one.
Right. At the end of the day, one person walks away with that trophy.
Mm-hmm.
So if it wasn't your year, it wasn't meant to be you. And that's okay because there's 31 other teams that say the same thing.
Exactly. So with that being said, that was our recap of championship weekend. So much to unpack there. So much. And let's just get right into it, man. The Super Bowl.
I can't believe we're here.
Super Bowl 58. Chris Palmer, I'll let you start us off with your thoughts on this game, man, because this is going to be a fantastic game, man.
Well, like I said in the beginning, and I kind of said that as a gag when I asked you, doesn't it suck when we're right? I want everyone to know I was very bitter for the first couple days after championship weekend. I'm sure a lot of people were walking away. They wanted to see change, of course. People like change. But unfortunately, that's not how professional sports work. The best team is gonna be there, and if you can't beat the best, then that's just what it's gonna be. So, with that being said, after my bitterness was done, I actually sat down and I looked at all the potential matchups leading to this game, and this is by far the best game. And it's really not even close. And the reason why I say that is because since Sunday, when it was confirmed that this was going to be a Super Bowl matchup, I've started my process of thinking of who I think is going to win. And at this point, I still don't know who I think is going to win this game. I know who I want to win. I want the 49ers to win. Do I think they're going to win? I have no idea. I know what my gut is telling me. My gut is telling me the Chiefs are going to win. Do I think the Chiefs are going to win? I have no idea. And the reason why is when you look at these two teams and you look at both sides of the ball, the amount of Hall of Fame talent is out of this world when it comes to offense and defense. When you look at the offense of the Chiefs, of course, you have Patrick Mahomes, future Hall of Famer. You have Travis Kelce, future Hall of Famer. You have Joe Tooney, future Hall of Famer, one of the best guards to ever touch the field. And then you look over at the 49ers. You have Trent Williams, future Hall of Famer. You have Christian McCaffrey, future Hall of Famer.
And should have been MVP this year.
Right, but because they don't give that should just be changed to the Quarterback of the Year award. But we ain't gonna walk down that road.
I know, but like MVP caliber Christian McCaffrey,
future Hall of Famer Christian McCaffrey,
mm-hmm.
Deebo Samuel, potential future Hall of Famer. Potential.
It's there.
I would say the same for Brandon Ayuk.
Yeah, they both need a little bit more.
They have potential. They need
a little bit more. Yeah.
If they get the ring, the conversation gets better.
Oh, absolutely.
See? So without the ring, the conversation can still be had.
Mm-hmm.
Same. That goes for that pretty much the entire offensive roster. And then you look at that 49ers defense, Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw, future Hall of Famers. Without a doubt, they're future Hall of Famers, barring serious injury.
I don't disagree with that either, one way or another.
And then you look over at the Chiefs defense, Chris Jones, future Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
And then you look on the sidelines, and you see Kyle Shanahan, future Hall of Famer.
Yeah, I mean, I would, but he's not first ballot. But
I'm just saying Hall of Fame. I don't do first
yeah.
ballots until you start looking at the sideline on the other side.
Right.
Andy Reid, future first ballot Hall of Famer. He's really the only. The Chiefs have secured first ballot Hall of Famers for when they retire. It's just a matter of when. Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, and Travis Kelce. That's just what it is. And Chris Jones. They're first ballot Hall of Famers. All of them. So when you look at the players on the field, you just know something is going to happen. A play is going to be made. Sparks are going to fly. Fireworks are going to go off. This fight is really going to be fought between the coaches. How well do you prepare these guys? How well did these guys listen to you going into this Super Bowl? And again, this is something that I brushed up on when it came to the Chiefs and the Ravens. Who has a better hard game? It's going to be nitpicking this game too. Who does the little things better? Who hides a play action better between the quarterbacks? Who does a hard count better between the teams? Who can hold for the whistle? Who drives to the ball? Who pursues better on defense? Who has a second effort? Who has the better running blocks? It's just going to be the little things in this game that a lot of people bypass that you're going to have to look at. That's going to separate this game. And that's the big reason why I don't know, because, again, both of these teams are so good at just about everything I mentioned when it comes to run blocking, when it comes to pass defense, when it comes to hard counts, when it comes to discipline before the ball, when it comes to communicating on defense, when it comes to communicating on offense. It's again, there's a lot to unpack here with these teams, and there's a lot of history to be made on both sides. The Niners are looking to right the wrong. They're trying to get the revenge match. It's not very often you get a round 2 at the Super Bowl. It's really not. And it's not often you get a repeat chance at the Super Bowl. And here both of these teams are. I don't know. And it's so hard for me. I know it's a little easier for you, but it's so hard for me.
It's tough, man. I mean, again, both of these teams, like, there's so much good you can take out of both of these teams. Let me rewind for a sec. This matchup, yes, it's the same teams, the Chiefs and the 49ers, but they are not the same teams as they were 4 years ago when they met in the Super Bowl.
Absolutely not.
Because the Chiefs 4 years ago, that was Andy Reid's offense unleashed,
Right.
to the fullest degree.
Unchained.
Because they had Tyreek Hill, Sammy Watkins, obviously Travis Kelce, but they also had Damian Williams,
and Kareem Hunt.
And no, Kareem Hunt was he wasn't on the Chiefs at that time. But they did have Damian Williams, and they also
was it Clyde Edwards-Helaire as a rookie then?
No, they drafted him the year after that offseason following. So,
and who was their number 2? It was Damian Williams. It had to be either Kareem Hunt or Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
It wasn't either. It wasn't either of those guys. But either way, that was, again, it was Andy Reid's offense unleashed when they finally just broke through. And their defense was very middle of the pack. Chris Jones was, there. Honey Badger was there, but he was kind of on the back end of his career. Paul was doing a status report right now.
Yeah, Kareem Hunt and Damian Williams.
Oh, it was Kareem Hunt.
Yeah, the 2018, right? We're talking about?
No, it was the 2019 season.
Marcus Marshall, Elijah McGuire, Mike Weber, LaShawn McCoy, and Damian Williams.
LaShawn McCoy. Okay, so it was Shady. Okay, nice. Okay, yeah. So yeah, it was because it was 2019. 2018 was the year that they went to the AFC title game, but the Patriots beat them
Lost to
in
the
Arrowhead.
Patriots, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Right,
So,
right.
um,
That was the year of the Philly special, no?
no, that was the Patriots Rams.
Patriot Rams, right?
Yeah. So, nevertheless, this is a different Chiefs team, and where it's
Right.
like they were extremely offensively heavy, offensively dynamic, explosive would be the best word to describe that offense back then. And the defense was kind of
Lackluster,
very.
to say the best.
They were a liability. They were a big liability.
Well, yeah, they gave
Now,
up over 200 yards a game.
yeah,
Now they're the number 2 overall defense.
exactly. That's my point. Is that this year, like this season, they are the complete flip of what we expect the Chiefs to be, and you and I, we were saying this earlier this year by the midway point. It's like this is not the Chiefs team that we are expected. They are a run heavy team with very limited receiving options, but a very, very capable defense. And now I would even say a fucking amazing defense after seeing what they did to fucking my Ravens. Like they just absolutely were relentless. And I would expect the same thing. Steve Spagnuolo, the defensive coordinator, he called an amazing game against the Ravens. Been calling an amazing games throughout this entire postseason. And I expect a lot of blitzes against
Oh,
Brock
yeah.
Purdy
And a lot of hidden
because
blitzes, too.
the two, not only can they get there with 4, but you get there with 5. That's whew, you force them to make the quick decision. But the reason you're able to blitz is because their 2 cornerbacks might be the best cornerback duo in the league, and not many people know about the Chiefs cornerbacks, which is Trent McDuffie, the second-year player, and L'Jarius Sneed.
I
L'Jarius Sneed
forgot Jerry Sneed.
he was the one that hit Zay Flowers on the 1 yard line and forced the fumble on that AFC title game. And so they might be the best quarterback tandem in the league that nobody talks about. And it's funny because you and I, we were talking about it before. I was like, I think that these cornerbacks, they might be the best right now in the playoffs, like when it started.
Without a
And
doubt.
and they've proven themselves. And that's why you're able to blitz like that. So it's like, my point is, the Chiefs 4 years ago, offensively heavy, defensive liability. Now, flip it. It's offensive consistency in running backs, like as a run-first team, with also Isaiah Pacheco as a fucking stud, and a fucking amazing defense. Flip it over to the 49ers side. How were they 4 years ago? Obviously, they did not have Christian McCaffrey. They did not have Brock Purdy. And right now, that's the heart of that team right now is Brock Purdy and Christian McCaffrey. They still had Trent Williams, and they still had George Kittle, Debo, Ayuk. They had all these great players, right? But it was kind of limited by the quarterback play. They were a great dominant run team, right? With like Elijah Mitchell, Raheem Mostert, great running backs, right? That very underappreciated. But obviously now we know their names. But obviously now fucking C-Mac is, C-Mac. So they were a very run heavy team with they were a team that was great in pass coverage, right? They
Mm-hmm.
played a lot of zone very well. Now, this year, they're still a great defense. They play a little bit more man nowadays. And they're not, even though they are a still great running team, they have opened up their playbook to all parts of the field. They have now, this is Kyle Shanahan's offense
Unleashed. Right.
Exactly. Yeah. So now it's kind of, again, these teams are different. It's the same teams, but just different.
Different levels now.
Yeah, different levels and different ways of them playing the game of football. And it's great to see. I mean, hell, this is Christian McCaffrey, and this is his first Super Bowl. This is Brock Purdy's first Super Bowl. This is like a lot of players. Like this is going to be their first Super Bowl, and it's going to be fun to see. Absolutely fun to see. But like you and I, we were talking off air. When you talk about the Chiefs and the Niners, The conversation ends one way. But
Patrick Mahomes. Right, that was my next point as to why I'm so torn on this game is you can have every conversation you want. I've been having them for a week. The conversation always ends with something referring to Patrick Mahomes. And it's so valid because there's no redundant to it. You know, there's no answer for him. It's just prepare as much as you can and get ready because something is going to happen from him specifically. Something is going to happen that's going to make you question the way you play football and the way football is supposed to be played. And it's just, you're going to see the greatest football player to touch the field. And that's just what it is. He is such a gifted athlete and he puts so much time into learning the game inside and out. Everything about the game, everything about his opponent. He is in a league of his own. And that's really the only way you can explain how he is when it comes, like you said it earlier. He's like LeBron. LeBron is more like Wilt Chamberlain in that sense as well, where it's just you are that much more dominant than everybody else when you touch the field. And that's not saying anything negative about how well Brock Purdy is playing. I feel he is putting just about every shadow and stigma that's been thrown on him away. You know, he has answered every call every analyst has asked of him. Can you do it when the time matters? Can you get key yards in crunch time? Can you make a comeback victory? Can you make comeback victories in the playoffs? Can you win at home? Can you win on the road in the playoffs? Check. He cleared every checkbox in the playoffs. And he did it with flying colors. And people are still saying, well, now you got to beat Patrick Mahomes to even be in the conversation, which is an overload, I feel, when it comes to the bias on Brock Purdy. To say you have to beat the greatest athlete of all time to even be in the conversation of being out of a stigmatized label. He has a stigmatized label of being a system quarterback. And I understand the want to have a highlight playmaker running your team. But that's the anomaly in this league. To have a playmaker like a Patrick Mahomes or a Josh Allen or a Lamar Jackson. Those are really anomalies. They're very gifted, very talented athletes. But when you look across the rest of the league and you see Baker Mayfield, you see Kirk Cousins, you see Matt Stafford's, they're system quarterbacks. They are game managers and floor generals alike. They fit into their system the best way they can. And that was a stigma that set Brock Purdy apart from everybody in a negative sense all year. Oh, he's a game manager. It's the roster around him. Isn't that what you want? Don't you want someone to come into the best situation possible and bring you to the end? Isn't that what you want? You want him to struggle and then prove everybody wrong? Is that what you want? You want it to be hard? I didn't understand a lot of the argument against him all year. Honestly. All season it was very confusing to me as to why people were upset at the fact that he fits a system that was made for someone else. It was made for Jimmy G, and Jimmy G didn't work. And he was Mr. Irrelevant, and that's another thing that fucking shrouds him a lot, is the idea that he was Mr. Irrelevant. He went to 2 straight NFC championships. That's not irrelevant. That is very relevant. So I feel the stigma with him needs to be put to rest. Totally needs to be put to rest before this game.
Yeah, because think of it like this too. It's like Brock Purdy in his second year has accomplished more than, say, Dak Prescott, Lamar,
Josh Allen,
Tua,
all these guys that we're calling the best quarterbacks in the league.
Yep, and
he did it in 2 years.
And I think for me, for you and I, we've been very high on Brock Purdy because he has, again, proven himself. And much like everything where all the criticism it's like, oh, he's on this
most
juggernaut of a team.
Right.
Yeah, the most versatile team. It's like, well, yeah, that's the team that wanted him. And every other team could have had him, but they chose not to.
Right.
And it's like you could have had Brock Purdy, but no, Brock Purdy, he's fitting Kyle Shanahan's system like a glove. And I make the comparison of Brock Purdy now to Tom Brady in his first few years as the Patriots, where it's like he is not necessarily the driving force of the team, but he doesn't have to be because he's fitting Bill Belichick's system perfectly. And then as time goes on, he's only going to get better. And from last year to this year, he
leaps and bounds.
He is a candidate for MVP, flat out. And like you can make the argument that he deserves MVP because of just how efficient he is. And that's the thing where it's like I compare him to Brady like his first year, where he's efficient. He does what he needs to win the game. It doesn't need to be pretty, just like the past 2 playoff games, right? It does not need to be pretty.
It just needs to be done right.
It needs to be pretty.
It needs to be done right at the right times.
Man, I was trying to do wordplay here. You're fucking my wordplay up here.
I heard you with your purdies.
But this is, I feel like for Brock Purdy, if he was on any other team, I don't think he would be as successful. Which I don't think that's indicative of him, but I think it's indicative of, again, much like you and I would talk about. The quarterback, you need to go to the right environment. And this has not only been the right environment, but it's been the perfect environment for him. Because it's like Kyle Shanahan's system was not necessarily made for Jimmy Garoppolo, but it fits Brock Purdy better. Because he's able to, again, like you and I said just a couple minutes ago, he's able to open up the playbook to places where Jimmy G could not. And I think that in this game, it's a tall ask because it's like you have to beat Patrick Mahomes. In all reality, no. The 49ers defense has to beat Patrick Mahomes. He just needs to, again, do exactly what Kyle Shanahan asked of him all year. Don't lose us the game. Don't throw 4 interceptions. That's fine. Like you could have 210 yards, 1 touchdown with a 63% completion percentage. But if we win the game, that's all you need. That's all you need. And that's perfectly fine because we've seen quarterbacks like that play like that and win Super Bowls. But and it's like you don't necessarily need to have like 300 passing yards, 3 touchdowns in a game. In fact, Patrick Mahomes, his 2 Super Bowl wins, he was pretty
non-existent.
He was pretty
But
go on.
Go ahead.
So his first Super Bowl against the 49ers, he was pretty bad for the first 3 quarters of the game. And he was really feeling it until he had a very magical 4th quarter. And that's really what changed the whole thing. And obviously he won Super Bowl MVP, and he did it because, he won them the game. Because he's Patrick Mahomes. He's fucking magic. But for that entirety of the game, if you watch that entirety of the game, he was pretty bad for the first 3 quarters. And last year, when he won against the Eagles, he only had, 182 passing yards and 3 touchdowns, but it's like he was dinking and dunking the whole game.
Right.
He was
It-
he was just dinking and dunking, handing it off to Pacheco, dink dunk Pacheco, and there you go, boom. Before you know it, you're just keeping up with the Eagles at that point. But he wasn't like making spectacular throws. In his Super Bowl performances, he's never had like a spectacular like 300-yard game for 3 touchdowns with like a 70% completion percent. He has not had that.
He hasn't needed
And
it.
so because he never needed it in those 2 wins. I mean, when he lost to the Buccaneers, I think he did have 300 yards, but that was all empty calories. It was all
Right.
just it was all empty calories at that point, but they didn't even score a touchdown. So it was a very forgettable Super Bowl, that
Right.
one. But nevertheless, I think Purdy, and my thing is, when all the Purdy critics are there, let me ask you this: is he a top 10 quarterback? Would you put him in the top 10 quarterbacks this season? Because every season changes, right? And this has been his first full year. Would you put him top 10? I would.
Yeah, I
I'd
would.
put him top. I'd put him top 10. You could
Put him maybe
rearrange the
8.
order.
Any way you
Put him-
want, but you got to put Brock Purdy's name in.
He's a top 10 quarterback.
Right.
Simply like that. And I stand by that. I think he is a top 10 quarterback, and I think next year too, I'm fairly confident that he will be a top 10 quarterback again next year.
You see, and it's funny because when Patrick Mahomes fell into Andy Reid's lap, the world exploded. He's a cheat code. He's this. He's that. He's the greatest thing ever. He fell into a system that put him in the best position to succeed.
Mm-hmm.
And look at how the world reacted. Such
Yep.
positivity. Such positivity there. Same thing when you look at the Chargers with Justin Herbert. Such positivity. He's going to change the narrative of the Chargers. He's going to do this. He's going to do that. Same thing with Josh Allen. Fell into the system. A system quarterback is a normal thing to look for. That is the big premise that I want to really establish here. Looking for a system quarterback is the norm. If you can find a system quarterback that just so happens to be an elite athlete, that's a plus. But people are looking at the elite athlete part and bypassing, they need to fit my system. Because the way it doesn't work is when you look at Cleveland and you look at Deshaun Watson. And the Browns were playing better when he was not on the field. Great athlete, doesn't fit the system of Cleveland.
And who fit it better?
What was his name? Jacoby Brissett?
Nope. Same this year. Who fit it better?
Who?
In Cleveland.
Go for it.
Joe Flacco.
Joe Flacco. Right. At the end of the season, yeah.
Yeah.
But, that's what it is. People need to realize finding a system quarterback is the only way to succeed. And if you get a chance to find an athlete that fits your system, it's a plus, and that's what separates you.
I want to build off that real quick. I don't disagree with it, but this is my thing. I think let me go back. I want to rewind back to 1979 with Bill Walsh with the 49ers. When he drafted Joe Montana, he was not looking for the most athletic quarterback. Joe Montana was a third-round quarterback out of Notre Dame. Bill Walsh said, I'm not looking for the quarterback that's ready now. I'm looking for the quarterback that I can develop within my system and that over time he can be good. And it took 2 years, and then he was off
to the races.
And then he's boom, Joe Montana, legendary quarterback. And much like you and I, we talked about when we were recapping the NFC title game, with the team is a reflection of the coach's philosophy on the game of football. So when every coach's system is different, the Ravens system is different than the Steelers system, than the Chiefs system, the 49ers system, etc., etc. And I think that you need to find the right person that fits your system. For instance, it's like, again, much like, do I think that Brock Purdy would have success outside of the Niners? Probably not. But I could also say the same thing as, like, I don't think Lamar would have as much success if he was outside of the Ravens. Because what other team would have completely revamped their system for this athlete, for this player? And much like Patrick Mahomes in 2017. Now, the Chiefs moved up in the draft to get him because there was a leak that the Saints were going to pick at number 11. They were going to pick Patrick Mahomes. The Bears obviously fumbled the bag. They moved up one spot to get Mitchell Trubisky. Obviously, looking back on it. But even still, it's like, if the Bears drafted Patrick Mahomes, I don't think we're seeing the Patrick Mahomes we are seeing today.
Because of the system he fell into. He fell into the greatest head coach of all time.
Exactly. So it's, again, you want to find players that fit the coach's ideology and way to play the game perfectly. Because Patrick Mahomes would probably wouldn't be Patrick Mahomes today without Andy Reid. Would he still be a special quarterback? Absolutely, because he is one of one. He is just one of one.
Right, he is one of one.
But he has achieved so much because he has been paired up with Andy Reid. And I think that the 49ers, they have achieved so much with Brock Purdy because he has fit Kyle Shanahan's system so much. The Niners are one of the only few teams this entire year that they have been favored in every single game this year. And that is indicative of just how we as fans and analysts view that team, where it's like, wow, with Brock Purdy, they're favored in every game. Every single game they played. Did they win every single game they played? No. But everyone expected them to win every single game because of just how efficient Kyle Shanahan and that system is, and the players that play for him.
Right. All the reason why I fucking am so torn as to who's going to win this game, man. It's absolutely insanity to me. When people have been telling me, oh, this should be an easy pick for you. I'm going with this team or I'm going with that team. I look at them, I'm like, you're looking at it as you're looking at this much of it compared to what it actually is. And I guess that's just because you and I look at the game different. And a lot of people they just go for the numbers, like what they feel, and they go do it based off of emotion and opinion.
Numbers can only tell you so much, man, because I'll tell you this. You can look at the stat sheet all you want, right? But unless you're actually watching the game and seeing what's happening on the field, the stat sheet only tells you so much of the story. Because I'll give you an example. AFC title game. You could look at the stats, be like, wow, Lamar threw for like 270 yards. He threw for more passing yards than Patrick Mahomes. He had a good amount of rushing yards too, right? And they only lost by 7. Wow, this must have been a close game. No, it was not.
No, it was rolling.
It was like if you looked at the stats would tell you it was a close game. In all reality, it was not a close game at all.
No.
And that's the thing, is like when you're watching a game too, it's like much like what Dan Campbell does, right? He feels the game. So you can analyze it, you can get all the numbers in, but sometimes you just gotta feel the game. And that's
you just gotta let it go.
Like, you just kind of gotta just be like, what's going on right now? What's like, and why? Why is it going on? And that's the thing, is like when you and I, we watch football, it's like we understand why teams are doing what they're doing because it's going to because history has shown that it's going to go. If you do X, you're going to get Y, and if you get Y, you're more than likely to get Z, or unless fucking you throw in a fucking trigonometry fucking problem. It's like what the fuck's going on? Pick six, boom.
Well, again, that's where it gets interesting because on the offensive side for the 49ers, when Brock Purdy and Christian McCaffrey are on the field, they're fucking almost unbeatable. When Christian McCaffrey has a game, he has over 75 yards rushing. They're fucking 12-1. They're 12-1 when he has a 70-yard rushing game.
Yeah, it's just nuts.
And let me tell you, one of my favorite matchups that I'm looking forward to right now, I think you know where I'm going with this.
I think I know. Yeah.
It's Chris Jones versus Trent Williams.
Oh yeah.
I cannot wait to see that matchup for 60 minutes.
I don't think we'll see that too much because Chris Jones, he's a nose tackle, right? He's going to be on the center, not so much on the edge. They might shift him to the edge every now and again, but for the most part, he's a nose tackle, and he's
a nose tackle.
They play a 3-4, so.
But they do run a lot of stunts and drags. So he will be going through Williams' inside shoulder gap a lot during that game.
Absolutely, man.
Again, with the defensive coordinator of the Chiefs, he, like you said, they're going to be blitzing all night. But with that, they are going to have to know how to hide it. So they're going to be doing a lot of hidden zone blitzes. They're going to be doing a lot of axes, a lot of hitch route, a lot of hitches, a lot of slants. They're going to be doing a lot of things with the linemen that is going to be confusing everybody else for the cornerbacks and the linebackers to slip in untouched. And Chris Jones, that man is a bull. But he also knows how to move. So he's going to be moving all game, and you best believe that they will find each other.
Oh, yeah. Well, Steve Spagnuolo. Do you know where he was prior to the Chiefs?
Part of me wants to say Seattle, but I don't know.
He was actually on a very famous team that won the Super Bowl. One of the biggest underdog teams to ever play the Super Bowl.
The Saints? The Saints?
The 2007 Giants.
He beat Tom Brady?
He was the defensive coordinator. Yes, he was the defensive coordinator for that Giants team under Tom Coughlin. So Steve Spagnuolo, he
knows what it means to beat the best.
He knows exactly, and he has the talent to do it. And does he have Michael Strahan, Osi Umenyiora, Prince Mukamara? No. But he's got Chris Jones and George Karlaftis and L'Jarius Sneed and Trent McDuffie. Right. He's got
an all-pro
guys that are more than capable to get the job done. And I would not. For me, I expect this game to be a very low-scoring affair to like kind of 20-17-ish. That's kind of where I'm feeling this kind of game. I don't really see a very high-scoring game. If it is, then I mean we're in for it, man. But I mean we had a high-scoring game last year. I doubt the scriptwriters are going to get us another high-scoring game back-to-back Super Bowls.
I don't see it being low-scoring.
No? Wow.
I see it being very high-scoring.
Really? I don't.
Yes.
Okay.
I see high 30s for both teams.
Oh.
I see high 30s for both teams. I see both defenses showing out, but I see at the end of the day, the offenses are not going to be stopped.
Okay.
When it comes to scoring drives, they will not be stopped. Defenses will get their 3-and-outs here and there, but ultimately, scoring drives are going to go nuts this game.
Man, this is tough, man. Chris Paulman, you know what time of the fucking show it is? I know. Okay, wait. One last thing before uh we make our picks. I just really want people to understand how good Patrick Mahomes is, real quick. I know a lot of people don't like Patrick Mahomes, but consider this right now. He is. You can make the argument right now. He is a top 5 quarterback of all time. Of all
And he's not
time.
even a third of the way done with his career.
This is only his what? His
Sixth year?
sixth year. His 6th year. 4th Super Bowl appearance. Like it's absolutely unbelievable. Actually,
It's
no, sorry. This
unhinged.
is
Seventh year.
his 7th year. Yeah, 7th year because he's been to 6 AFC title games
Straight.
straight. Every single year he's started, he's been to like an AFC title game. Absolutely unheard of. Absolutely unheard of.
Ridiculous.
Been to 4 Super Bowls, 1, 2 already, and 2 MVPs, 2 Super Bowl MVPs. He has just as many Super Bowl rings as Peyton Manning, more than Drew Brees, more than Aaron Rodgers, more appearances than Drew Brees and Aaron Rodgers. It's just if he wins this, he's number 2 of all time. It's for me.
And it's arguable.
It's like again, like you said before, like I compare him to LeBron, and the reason I do that is because he is when he steps on the field on Sunday, he is the best player on the field because he is just so great at what he does at his position that he is so far above his peers that the closest peer that he's got is what?
As a running back.
No. I'm not like let's say quarterbacks, right? Like closest
quarterback
specifically. Who's the closest peer he's got? Joe Burrow?
I wouldn't even do that. That's disrespectful.
Well, but who else? Like
I
his
think
contemporary.
there isn't
Lamar,
anybody.
He's got 2 MVPs. It's tough.
I wouldn't even do that because he has 2 MVPs without a Super Bowl appearance.
Exactly. So it's like he's so far above.
It's like
his peers.
It's like when you put it into music, right? And you start talking about hip hop, and you look at a lot of people do it with Eminem. A lot of people do it with Jay-Z. It's there they are, and here's everybody else. It's just you cannot compare the two.
Yeah.
And that is okay. You have to compare everybody else to each other and separate that because you will probably not get that again in this lifetime.
Yeah. And it's just when I know a lot of people don't like Patrick Mahomes, but for me it's like for me on the AFC Championship weekend, as much as I wanted to hate the Chiefs and villainize them, I couldn't because the Ravens
just
obviously
how good of a brand of football they have.
The Ravens, we did it to ourselves, and it's like the Chiefs, they did exactly what they needed to do to win. And I like the players on the Chiefs a lot. Like I like Mahomes, I like Kelsey, I like Andy Reid, I like Chris Jones. There's so many great players on the Chiefs, and it's like but Mahomes, it's like again he's LeBron, where it's like he's so above his peers that he's only chasing Brady at this point, and it's absolutely crazy to think about. And if he wins this brings about the new dynasty in the NFL. There's one every 10 years, just about. And how I categorize a dynasty is a team that wins 3 Super Bowls within a 10-year span. And that's typically between like the decades, right? So the 60s you had the Packers, 70s you had the Steelers, the 80s you had the Niners, 90s you had the Cowboys, 2000s you had the Patriots. 2010s you had the Patriots. that was a 20-year dynasty. But now you win the Chiefs. If they win this one, this could be it.
Isn't there also there's no team that went back to back?
No, the last team to win back to back. There's been a couple teams that won back to back. The Cowboys, the Broncos, the 49ers, the Steelers. The last team to have won back to back Super Bowls was the 2003-2004 Patriots.
Oh, that's right.
Since
Right.
then, no team has won back-to-back. Also, fun fact, there's actually been no team that has three-peated ever in the history of the NFL.
And shit, with the trajectory that this Chiefs team is going, who's to say?
You said it, not me. So.
I said who's to say. I didn't. I just. I ain't putting that out there. I ain't putting that out there. I'm just saying.
Oh man. So
Oh,
okay.
man.
With
All
that
right.
being said, Chris
I think
Palmer,
we're
is
there.
there any final thoughts you got on this game?
This part sucks. That's it. That's all I
Okay,
gotta
well-
say is this
well-
part sucks.
I'll tell you what. I'll buy you some time real quick because for me, this is who you got, guys. Who you got? We want to know also too. We want to know who you got winning the Super Bowl. So please put down in the comments who you got winning this game. Give us your scores. Let us know. I'm gonna go Chiefs beating the 49ers 24-20. And the reason I say that is not just because of Mahomes, but that defense, man. Spagnuolo, that defense is nuts. And I think Chris Jones is going to play a big part in the Super Bowl. I don't think Travis Kelce proposes Taylor Swift, though. That's my thing. So, but I'm going Chiefs over the Niners 24-20.
Yeah, give me the Chiefs.
Oh no, Chris Palmer, you did it! No! Oh my god!
Give me the Chiefs 41-38.
41-38. Jesus, Mary and Joseph.
This is going to be one of the highest scoring Super Bowls of all time.
It's at 41-38. Wow. Okay, I'm writing these scores down. Woo. Okay then. Whoa.
Fireworks are gonna go off this game.
So we're thinking the same team, but just different ways of winning.
Correct.
That's funny.
This game is going to be both offenses unleashed incarnate. Because before, on the way out, I want to set a huge shout out to Valdez-Scantling for showing true number one potential in Kansas City this postseason. You show out like you've been showing out this entirety, you're going to help this team for a long time.
Absolutely, man. That's a great shout out too because he's really stepped up. He's had problems this regular season dropping the balls, but he's really stepped up into himself this postseason. So that's a very admirable shout out. Good eye. But man, whoo, 41-38. Damn, I like that.
Got a nice ring to it, right?
I mean, is that a pun intended?
No, it was not. It was not.
Oh shit, man! Okay,
You're the
Chris
pun
Palmer.
guy.
I'm a very punny guy, but Chris Palmer, send us out, baby.
All right, folks. There you have it. Super Bowl picks are in. The board is set. Only one will walk away. Please leave a like, a comment, subscribe. Please let us know who you think is going to win for the Super Bowl. Give us a score. Let us know what you think the score is going to be. High scoring game, low scoring game. If you want to do an interview next year regarding your team, please DM John or myself, and we will schedule to talk your team and your game of choice. You just let us know.
Yeah, please, guys, because we had 3 incredible guests this year. We want to up it. We want to talk to you guys. We want to know what you think and what your thoughts are on teams and games and everything. So we want to up 3 interviews. We want to go to 5. We want to go to 7. We want interviews. So please, guys, we want to hear your voice next year on Let's Talk Football. But until then, we have one more weekly episode, which is next week's recap, and then
our yearly review.
And our year in review. So please join in next week for our recap and year in review. And until then, we'll see you all next week.
Thanks, guys.